Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory made their first big move yesterday, trading Kevin Durant, and this has massive implications for the Phoenix Suns on one key point in hinging, and that is the 10th overall pick, an asset that they retained in the deal yesterday, and something that has Suns fans excited, as this is the key for the Phoenix Suns, drafting a piece here at pick 10 and making sure it stands out so that the Suns have a great player on a rookie scale contract able to develop and be part of this retool alongside Devin Booker. So we're going to dive in and explore some possible pieces that the Suns could look at in a specific position of need, gearing up for the draft at pick 10, looking at some overall pieces that I think can make a significant impact. We'll be diving into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I am Bruce Veliz. You guys have been fantastic. You've been showing your support, always keeping it key with us here on the channel, so I really do appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section if you like any of these prospects, particularly at 10. If you'd like to see the Suns possibly even trade up, trade back a little bit now with this pick 10, still having some flexibility to gain or more assets, and or if you think anybody else in this draft class could be mentioned here, let me know down below in the comment section at pick 10. Without further ado, let's dive in. Let's get into the video at hand today. Make sure to grab that snack and let's explore who would make sense for the Phoenix Suns here coming in at pick 10. Because like I said, yesterday we saw them do a deal with the Houston Rockets, sending away Kevin Durant, and in return got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick, and 5 second-rounders. Now, obviously, Houston didn't need to make a selection at pick 10. They already had enough young guys. They didn't have the minutes for this selection, so it makes sense they were giving this up. This was also the Suns' pick this year as well, as we all know, because they traded this pick away initially for Kevin Durant. Now they get it back in a Kevin Durant deal. But with pick 10, the Suns have multiple options here to really gear up for, and I think really need to look at one key position here, one that's been mentioned throughout the entire offseason, and that is the center position. Nick Richards, as we know, is a fringe starter, more of a backup big. Oso Ighodaro is still trying to find himself as that backup center or backup power forward for this team, and the Suns don't have that clear number one anchor, that guy that can work the pick and roll with Devin Booker, that guy that can be the interior presence down low, potentially a lob threat, someone who can work in the low post, be a rim protector, stretch out to the floor, have assets for the Suns to be a suitable team on defense. And that's where Jordan Ott found his success last season, working with the Cleveland Cavaliers and utilizing a lineup of two bigs, and Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. And I truly do believe that the Phoenix Suns will go out and target that center position here in the draft, and we're going to look at some key guys that I think could make sense. Now, Jonathan Givony of Draft Express and ESPN released his latest mock draft today following the Kevin Durant trade, in which the Suns were gifted the 10th overall pick, and the player that he thinks that they should draft is a guy named Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina. The sophomore had a true shooting percentage of 64% and is a pretty solid player. He is 6'6" without shoes, 239 pounds, with a standing reach of I can't see what that says, and a wingspan of 7 feet. Murray Boyles is a solid interior defender. He's scrappy. He's relentless. He's going to fight for loose balls and really buy into that hard-working motor engine that Jordan Ott was really talking about on the defensive end of giving it your all, never stop going, and just always fighting to make the last plays. He's also has toughness. He's unselfish. He has some great defensive versatility, and his playmaking gives him a high floor, even if he has the lack of size and perimeter shooting that some people would like to have him have in one of these lineups. Murray Boyles also a little bit of a concern, being 6'6" without shoes, plays a little bit more of that power forward center, power forward slash center as a small ball center, and with the Phoenix Suns already having some issues with some height on this roster, with Nick Richards being the only 7-footer on this team at this moment, and no one really above 6'6", with even Royce O'Neal being pretty short, Grayson Allen being pretty short. This team needs size. It needs a big presence. So Murray Boyles, I think, has the qualities that a player like Jordan Ott would really like to have for this Suns team, as a tough bully as a tough low post scorer, someone that's going to work in the post, be a bully, but also be incredibly tough on the defensive end. I do think the size does limit him from playing that true center, and I do believe that with pick 29 or even in some of those second round picks, the Suns could find a player like Colin Murray-Boyles who can play that power forward position a little bit more effective for them, maybe an Adu Therio, maybe a Noah Penda or something like that in this draft later on, and I think that's something that the Suns should prioritize at that point later on. So Rasheer Fleming, Adu Therio, maybe a little bit later over Colin Murray-Boyles, in my personal opinion. But I want to get into the guy that I'm very high on with this draft class this season, and that is Thomas Sorber, as he's got the physical profile and versatility to be a great modern big, aggressive, strong, good interior scorer and defender, a great connector, and if he can polish the decision making and ability to switch onto guards, he'll be absolutely awesome. I have an article coming out for Bright Side of the Sun today detailing why I believe Thomas Sorber is the right pick for the Suns. And after watching even more film on Thomas Sorber yesterday for that article, I can tell you this man is a beast. 6'10" with a 7'6" wingspan. The only problem with the guy in Thomas Sorber is he is a freshman. He's going to be coming in a little bit younger, but that gives the Suns the ability to work him alongside a guy in Devin Booker and have him continue to grow. And if he can turn out to be this dominant center on this rookie scale contract, because he is coming in as one of the better defensive center prospects, if not one of the best defensive prospects, that would be absolutely key for the Suns. Once again, team who struggled with defense, 27th in defensive percentages last year. Thomas Sorber could absolutely excel that with his low post, with his defense that he's able to play, and how his ability is to rim protect and have solid block percentage as well. He usually plays in the drop coming out of the pick and roll, which we have seen a lot with the Suns in their bigs, but has the ability to switch onto some smaller guards and has had some success. Now, ultimately hasn't had 100% success when doing that, but if he is able to kind of get used to that with his mobile feet and his ability to have quick footwork underneath the paint when he is setting his pick and rolls and rolling to the basket or cutting to the basket down low, and just having that amazing footwork to go up once, up twice, and just work his way around the basket, I truly do believe a guy in Thomas Sorber can have that ability to reach that next level if he is able to switch on to defenders and be an impactful two-way defender for this Phoenix Suns core. Like I mentioned, not only on the defensive side is he impactful, but in the offensive side as well he doesn't have the greatest three-point shot, I will not lie. He only shot 16% in college, but Ryan Dunn, the pick from last year from the Suns, also struggled from shooting from three-point range, only on 1.5 attempts, very similar to a guy in Thomas Sorber, and his three-point shot looked pretty solid in Summer League. It looked pretty solid throughout the summer of the year as well. So the guy in Thomas Sorber can have that little reclamation as well, even if it's not turning of the leaf where the jump shot is automatically back, but a jump shot where it actually looks kind of conceivable and can feel like it could be worked upon and develop into a solid one for the Suns. That's going to be key because he's already a solid mid-range shooter, and in the pick and pop, it isn't his best. He is better as a roller getting to the basket, as he is, such a big body and can score down low and isn't the best jump shooter. But in his own, he can hold his own from the mid-range, and I think if he got to the right level with the Suns, he could even stretch out to the three-point line in some instances, which would be key. And not to mention that Jordan Ott worked with Evan Mobley. Now, Evan Mobley obviously a little bit better offensively gifted than a guy in Thomas Sorber, in my opinion, but the defensive qualities and the size and frame is there from a guy in Evan Mobley to a guy in Thomas Sorber. And if Jordan Ott, who brought out the best in Devin Mobley as a defensive prospect and won him Defensive Player of the Year, could do that last season, I feel full confidence that a guy in Jordan Ott could do that once again with a guy in Thomas Sorber. And even if the offensive game isn't truly there, if the defensive game is there, that's all the Suns need for a guy alongside Devin Booker, and to have him on that cheap rookie scale contract for those seasons, if he blossomed, would be key for this Suns squad. And then lastly, we're going to dive into two more prospects here. One of them being Derek Queen, another center here for the Phoenix Suns that I think they could prioritize. Queen, it can play the 4 and the 5 a little bit of a difference here, but he's an elite playmaking big. He has that vision, has that intention, his frame and physicality of a great rebounder and a soft touch at the rim. Obviously, he needs a little bit work on his finesse improvements. His defensive efficiency isn't really there. He has some good flashes, and he needs to work on some of his shooting. But at 6'10", with a 7'4" wingspan, being 20, almost 21 years old of age. Derek Queen would also be a very talented fit for the Phoenix Suns. Truly, I do believe Queen is going to play that center position, maybe can swap into that power forward and kind of switch in between if he does develop that shot. Looking at his NBA comparisons here, we do kind of see what his kind of comp is. I truly think that a guy in Thomas Sorber might be a little bit more impactful than a guy in Derek Queen, but that's just personally how I truly feel, because I'm really high on Thomas Sorber on the defensive side of things. But obviously, Derek Queen a little bit more of an offensive type of big compared to that defensive physicality, and maybe that's something that the Suns are keen and interested in as well. I know they mentioned Danny Wolf as a possible big to kind of keep an eye on, and he obviously has that great playmaking and passing as a center, has some turnover issues, maybe not the biggest athlete, but those are things to keep an eye on. The Suns are looking at big, and they are trying to figure that out, and I think guys like Derek Queen, I think a guy in Thomas Sorber, I even think a guy in Colin Murray-Boyles, Danny Wolf could all be those pieces for the Suns. The last one I want to mention as well is Carter Bryant, as he obviously is from the University of Arizona, played a little bit more of that power forward position, something that the Suns also do need. He ultimately, in my position, is a little bit more of a project piece. He didn't really play that much at the U of A, but I do think that he still, even with that not great experience in college, will be able to translate to the NBA. It's just going to take some time. I think he's the safe pick. I think, you're kind of getting with Carter Bryant, a solid scorer, solid defender, basically a pretty gold mold for an NBA player. It's just that, will he rise past that NBA mold that you really have to ask yourself with some of these guys? And I do think that he can do that, but I do believe guys like Thomas Sorber, Derek Queen, Colin Murray-Boyles have a little bit more of untapped potential, a little bit more of rising stock than maybe a guy does in Carter Bryant. But once again, Carter Bryant being a kid from the U of A, obviously going to school there, would be a nice hometown pick, especially for a Suns team that wants to instill that culture and new identity. Maybe this is the way that they go. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Multiple aspects for the draft, really gearing up for the Suns, and we went over multiple prospects that they could potentially draft to really help them solve this issue here, right? At pick 10, this is a big thing that they need to address, is the center position, and with none of those centers really being available on the trade market, not a lot of them being available in free agency, the draft may be that number one place for the Suns to really identify that savior for this team. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, how you guys ultimately feel on these picks, and definitely stay tuned and up to date on everything revolving around this Suns team, as multiple news waves will be breaking through over these next couple of days, talking about things related to the squad. Obviously, there'll be stuff about Bradley Beal, stuff about the draft, Vasily Micic, Cody Martin, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, all that jazz, and all of those discussions will be coming up front, I believe, in these next couple of days. So if you want to stay up to date on everything, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you're getting all the content here on Suns Digest. But once again, Sorber is a guy I really like. Colin Murray-Boyles is pretty solid, but I do think they can find some additional guys at that position at the power forward later on in the draft. Carter Bryant, kind of similar, but also could be a high impact defender. They do want to keep him alongside Ryan Dunn. And then Derek Queen and Danny Wolf, some key guys to also kind of keep an eye out for the Suns. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I really do appreciate all you guys' support here on the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Go Phoenix Suns.